The Michigan Republican Party continues to fall apart in real time. It's gotten so bad and hilarious that Republicans fear that they're on the brink of losing the state for the foreseeable future, to which I say, good. Yes! Good indeed. Now, according to a report in The Hill, the state party is facing a slew of negative headlines painting a picture of warring factions in dire financial straits. Last week, reports surfaced that an alleged fight broke out between allies of the party's new chair, Christina Caramo, and her former opponent for the position, Matt DePerno. On top of that, Caramo has faced criticism from her own, both inside and outside the GOP, for a number of remarks, including for comparing gun control restrictions to the treatment of Jewish people during the Holocaust. Jesus Christ. Wow. All right. There's more. She said insane things. Now, Caramo is an election denier because she denies her own, well, loss in her election. And also promoted insane conspiracy theories, QAnon, and believes that various pop singers are in league with Satan.
It's the devil, okay?
Now, that's not to say that DePerno is that much better. Remember, DePerno also endorsed by former President Donald Trump, and there's a reason. It's because he's an election denier as well. So, election denier versus insane election denier. By the way, DePerno also compared birth control pills to fentanyl. They're all crazy. They're all nuts. They're just nuts. No wonder the entire Republican Party in Michigan is falling apart. It's coming apart at the seams. Leadership. You have the leadership of these different factions here. You've got crazy and you've got crazier. And look, it's come to blows.
By the power vested in me. Is that what you said? By the power vested in me?
Let's talk about Macomb County.
You're all going to jail. You're all going to go down. All of you are going down. You're so get the out of here. By the power vested in me. By the power vested in me. By the power vested in me.
Are you an attorney?
By the power vested in me. You are no longer a delegate. Is that what you said? By the power vested in me. You're no longer a delegate.
Get your out of here.
Keep him Macomb.
Hey!
Now we got a problem. Now we got a problem.
Oh, they've got quite a bit of a problem. Wow. Now, look, you may remember me showing you that video. That was Kalamazoo Republican Party Chair Kelly Sackett, a DePerno ally, versus Macomb County GOP Secretary Melissa Felis, a Caramo ally. They were getting ready to throw down. According to Bridge, Michigan, the two local party officials were clashing over an alleged move by Sackett to remove Caramo backers from the Kalamazoo Republican Party. That incident allegedly took place at a hotel bar the night before a Michigan GOP leadership summit, which ended up having the police called. Oops. Leadership summit. So much leadership. Look, it's beautiful to watch everything fall apart. Now, look, just the fact that they're turning in on themselves like this while Gretchen Whitmer is actually striking down zombie laws, like the ban, for example, on unwed cohabitation and the 1931 abortion ban. By the way, that unwed cohabitation ban is insane. And guess what? Half the Republican Party voted to keep it. So like, no, we want to continue to ban couples who are not married from living with each other. So And look, the Democratic Party in Michigan has been doing a lot of things, striking down right to work laws. They've been doing great while the Republican Party has, been doing this, fighting each other. Okay. Now, let me go to a quote here. This is from a former Michigan Republican executive director, Jason Cabell-Rowe, saying, quote, "I think the rifts are deep, and I think it's going to become increasingly problematic." You don't say. You don't say. He adds, what they should do, or what they should do, and what they are doing are two different things. Obviously, you want to unite under a common banner, but right now there's no faction within the party that's particularly interested in uniting. I think the state party, this is another former Republican congressman. I quoted him before, basically trashing DeSantis as an asshole. He had a more stark assessment of the party, saying, quote, "I think the state party is dead."
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Down goes the Michigan State Republican Party. Okay, so look, why am I celebrating this? That's not because I want one party rule or anything like that, or don't believe in democracy. No. It just, there needs to be consequences for a party that goes so far off the rails. And that's what happens. Like, you lay down with crazy, you're going to turn off the voters. And that's exactly what happened with the Michigan Republican Party. This is what's happening with a lot of the Republican Party. It's what happened in the midterms. And the voters are basically sick and tired of them. All right. Let me give you some polling to back that up. There's a poll from Data for Progress earlier this month that noted that the American people and even some Republican voters are tired of, for example, all the anti-LGBTQ bans that are working their way through state houses. Now, of the right-wing supporters who responded for the Data for Progress poll, 55% agreed with the statement. There's too much legislation. Politicians are playing political theater and using these particular bills as a wedge issue. Again, these are all the trans bans. More than half, 54% of Republicans agreed that transgender adults should be allowed to change their bodies however they want. Wonderful. Freedom, right? Now, there was a previous Data for Progress poll from 2022 that looked at the electorate altogether. They found that an overwhelming majority of U.S. voters, 88% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans, thought the United States government should not have a say in personal matters like a person's sexual preference or gender identity. So, for a party that seems to be focusing on all this, it's not reaping any sort of rewards. Even though, by the way, there's a negative in this poll. 62% of Republicans do believe that increased transgender visibility in society represents to them a threat to children. How? Seeing a trans person does not make you trans. Reading about trans people does not make you trans. They think that, I don't know, is that they're apparently 60% of Republicans think that you can become transgender through osmosis or something. I don't know. But it just reminds me of the weirdo panic. I think it was like back in the 90s or something like that, or 80s, that you could contract the gay from sitting on a toilet seat. What? No, insanity. It's really, really dumb. But that said, more polling. Another poll of Republican primary voters said that, and this is something also to be concerned about, said that fighting woke ideology in our schools and businesses is more important than protecting entitlement programs from cuts. This is a Wall Street Journal poll that just came out. So you do have a majority of Republicans, primary voters, the most extreme, the people that turn out the most, that are saying, no, let's push all these anti-trans, all this anti-so-called woke stuff. No, let's not even care about Medicare and Social Security. Screw that. So here you have the Republican Party being caught between, again, a big chunk of their voters that are like supporting insane culture war, nonsense, right? But then you also have other people, other voters, including some Republican voters that are like, no, I'm not interested in this at all. Why are you pushing this? This is obviously not a winning issue. See, the vast majority of the American people, the vast majority of the electorate, overall, not interested in having these fights. Among Americans who know a transgender person personally, 78% of them said that there's just too much focus on preventing them from living their lives, preventing trans people from living their lives. So, yeah. That said, I'm going to tell you why the Republican Party will continue to double and triple down on these culture war nonsense issues. Because they don't have anything else. I mean, you want me to go into detail further? Okay, I can do that. What is their platform? What's the Republican Party platform? Cut Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Privatize it, which is incredibly unpopular. Their other policies are give more money to the rich in the form of tax cuts. So more tax cuts for the rich and corporations, more corporate welfare, more subsidies to oil companies, more military spending. You thought they were anti-war? No, of course not. No, but by the way, both sides of the political spectrum are massively anti-war. They keep shoveling even more money to the Pentagon, and they'll never stop. So more military spending. And so, look, there are other policies, and again, this goes more to the wedge issues. They want to police anybody who has a womb, which is incredibly unpopular, and to force their version of Christianity on everyone else. Also, not very popular and very, very un-American. So, of course, they're not doing very well. Now, so in my view, the sooner the party completely implodes, the sooner I think a more sane opposition party could rise to take its place. It's happened in American politics before. And the reason I want that is so that we can actually have conversations about economic policy that would help the working class instead of constantly trying to argue that human beings are actually human beings, and that trans people deserve to be treated as human beings. That women, and should be treated as human beings. I don't want to be having those conversations. Because they're human beings. This should not be debatable. Civil rights are not debatable. But apparently now, Republicans think, no, totally debatable. So I don't want to have those culture war fights, but we're forced to do so because of how abhorrent the far right is and how they do want to dehumanize people. Look, I want to talk about economic issues because, leftist policies will help everyone, every single person. And I don't think they're talked about enough because these culture war issues do suck the oxygen out of the room. I want to talk about Medicare for all. I want to talk about housing for everyone. I want to talk about, fixing infrastructure and modernizing it, breaking up these big corporations, that have these monopolies, regional cable monopolies, energy monopolies that we have. I want to talk about things like, workers' rights, labor unions, worker co-ops, sustainable jobs, that pay not just living wages, but thriving wages. I want to talk about fair trade. I want to talk about, making sure that we don't exploit people, vulnerable people overseas or people here for cheap goods that will just increase corporate profits. We're not talking about all of those different issues. Instead, we're not. And so I'm hoping that we can actually get to those issues, but it won't happen until the current Republican Party either goes the way of the dodo and takes their culture wars and neo-fascism with them, or they change. And, I don't really see them changing, so I guess we're stuck with watching them implode.